like anything in life, there's no shortcuts. And people on our team who do it right the first time and no shortcuts, that's what really gets us where we want to go.
This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Joe Baker, my co-host. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm excited for another good show.
Yeah. Hey, you and I are going to be hanging out a little bit on this weekend in Montana. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait to go sledding with you, Joel. It's going to be a hoot. It'll be life-changing.
Yeah. I watched a couple of videos, Joe, and at first you were saying, I'll be digging you out, no problem. I thought, you're not going to have to dig me out. I got this. And I watched a couple of those videos online about, West Yellowstone. I thought, oh man, I think he's going to be digging me out. So it's good to have somebody, having your back. So that's all good. So
yeah, it's good. It's good to know this isn't a trip of gently riding down the trail and looking at wildlife. This is climbing mountains, and we're going to teach you how to do it, Joel. It's going to be a life-changing experience.
It is going to be fun. Our friend Greg Gilbaugh is going to be there as well, and so some of you on the show know Greg. He's been on our podcast a number of times. So with that, I've got another friend that's on the podcast with us today too, and his name is Ryan Miller. Ryan goes to my church, and our wives are friends with each other, and our daughters are friends with each other, and we've just known each other for a long time. Ryan's a great guy, and I know he's an excellent businessman too. And so Ryan and I have done some leadership stuff in the church together. So perfect fit for our show. So Ryan is the president and co-owner of Farmers Hen House in Kalona, Iowa. Farmers Hen House began in 1997, has grown from 3 farms to almost 60. And they have about 1 million hens, and they distribute all across the country. So Ryan, welcome to the podcast, first of all.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so your business has really grown. I mean, since 1997, you guys have really been on a nice steady trajectory of growth.
Yeah. Since the late 90s, we're about 50 times bigger now.
Wow.
Yeah, in sales and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So tell us how you got into that. I know it started with your father, right? And then it kind of grew. Yeah, now you're kind of running the show.
He got into it in 2000, and I was in college to be a teacher at the time. So yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever. And ended up a few years later, my wife and I both were teachers, and I had started graduate school, and we had moved to Louisiana for a short period of time. And we were coming back so I could finish graduate school. And the business was growing, and my dad needed some help, and he asked me if I would come help him out. And I was like, yeah, sure. I needed a job during the day. My classes were at night. And so my plan was to work for the 2 years, finish graduate school, and then I would be on my way. But during that time, I did it actually took 2.5 years to finish graduate school. I finished graduate school and all that, but I never stopped working at the business, and I got in up to my eyeballs pretty quick. And so I've been here in some capacity ever since.
Wow.
And then around 2010, started buying part of the business and just kept growing from there. And my dad retired in December, and yeah, we're hoping to continue the growth, and it's been an interesting ride.
So how many eggs is that? How many eggs do you produce per day or per week, or what's the metric?
About 650,000 dozen or so is what we deal with every week. In
Wow.
different capacities, whether we're doing a little bit of custom grading, mostly selling our own eggs, just different things like that. But yeah, our grading machine here, we wash and package about 1 million eggs a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really impressive considering how breakable they are.
Yeah, the machine is very gentle. It doesn't look that gentle because it has to pick them up, set them down on rollers. They come off the rollers, they go into a carriage and get dropped into these nice plush brushes as they go into the packing machine. And yeah, our breakage is like a couple tenths of a percent, something like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's not much at all. It's higher than that in the grocery store when you just open up and check your eggs.
Oh yeah. Most of the breakage at the grocery store is from people checking their eggs and dropping something, or dropping something on the eggs in the egg case, and then they just shove it to the side.
Yeah.
And leave it for the stock boy later.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, hey, as interesting as eggs are, and talking about eggs, which I'm sure it's pretty fascinating. I know, Ryan, you really wanted to talk today about, we're just kind of changing subjects here a little bit, but you really wanted to talk about really the importance of surrounding yourself with quality people, or really partnering up or teaming up with quality people, whether it be people on your team or vendors or customers or clients as well. That there's something about teaming up with the right people with the right values that's really a game changer in the business world.
Yeah. Like we were talking about our growth, when I look back through the 18 years that I've been here, and I think back through that time frame, really a lot of what's catapulted our growth is when we are working with quality farmers, quality people on our team here internally, and then good quality customers as well, all along the way. We wouldn't get to this point if we didn't have quality folks, especially on our team, because that's what gets our customers the service they need and the quality they need. And like anything in life, there's no shortcuts. And people on our team who do it right the first time and no shortcuts, that's what really gets us where we want to go.
Yeah, that's elusive though. It's not easy, and especially when you have a lot of employees. How many employees approximately do you have working in your company?
We're up to just about 70 now.
70. Yeah. See, that's a lot. That's tough to, that's about what we have in my company as well. And I would love to be able to say that we just, have 100%, really high quality people. And I'm not talking about the value of people. Of course, everybody's really valuable.
Right.
And we love all of our employees, but sometimes you get people that just aren't a good fit, or they're taking on some responsibilities that they're not ready for, or they're just not who they say they are. And so there's just, the truth is there's just people out there that are like that. That's just not quite there on the maturity level. And so it's tough when you're working with a lot of people. So
and I think something that I've seen, and maybe, and I'm sure you guys have seen this too, is a couple of times, we've had someone who hasn't been the best fit, and we try a few different things and that kind of thing. And then when it doesn't work out and they're gone, we've noticed, like, even though we're missing a person, so we might be a little short, we've noticed that the whole kind of improves. And then you realize, oh, they were sort of draining some energy from everybody that you didn't really realize was happening. And that, helping them move on, keeping them on for a long time, trying to make it work when it really wasn't going to work, didn't make that much sense, actually, after the fact.
I've never paid anybody too much as I look back at all the different people I've hired, but I've definitely paid people way too long. And I think that that same mistake is something that I've got to live with. My biggest mistakes, absolutely my biggest mistakes were paying people too long, trying to make it work, trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And should have just let them go.
Most people err on that side, but there's something to that too. When we see people that, come on board and they're not necessarily knocking it out of the park, as leaders, we want to help them get there. And so we want to believe the best in people, because that's what we do, right? You don't ever want to just expect people to fail and then allow them to prove you wrong. You want to expect them to succeed and then adjust if you need to, but be everything you can. So it's, we've all three experienced that, and it's a tough place to be. How long do you hold on to people? But it does kind of fall in line with a couple couple of things that Greg Gilbaugh talks about in his book. And so I'm going to flash this book here. So Greg Gilbaugh, our friend, and he's got a book called Letting Good Things Run Wild, and it's going to be released in June, I believe. But I got an advanced copy, and I've been reading it, and it is awesome. But he talks about in his book here, he talks about character and integrity, and I think this lines up really well with what we're talking about today, Ryan, with you. And I just wanted to give a couple of definitions as he gave it, and then maybe we can springboard off of that. But so he talks about integrity as wholeness or authenticity, right? And I like to think of it also as like soundness or structure. But then with character, he defines that as character is a collection of individual choices and actions that create a portrait of who you really are. And so it's like integrity is the quality of the structure, and then character is like the actions that come from that, you know, the illustration of that, like in motion. It's a portrait that's painted when you are that. And I think that's great to know when it comes to leadership, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I like that definition of the integrity is like that structure, but character is as it happens. Yeah, and I think that's a big important thing that we look for as business owners and business custodians, is that that people are able to follow through on what you need them to do. Kind of like you said, Joel, that you get what you think you're getting from, let's say, a vendor or something like that. And I think I was talking about this a little bit earlier, like from our side, looking at our customers, that's how we want to be seen by our customers, is that we have integrity and character, and that, you know, they can rely on us to do what we say we're going to do. You know, and we fail sometimes. We don't always do that, but we always want to, if we fail, we want to fail trying, not fail because we sort of just let something fall through the cracks, right? And you know, I think my team does a great job of that, and that's something we've worked on over the years. Is like probably one thing that drives us crazy is if we feel like a customer feels like we've failed to do what we said we would do. It's something that just kind of like, you know, it's like a burr under the saddle, like, oh, you know, you got to get that fixed, because we know what it's like to be on the other end when we're the customer and the vendor has failed us in some way. It's not pleasant. So we definitely don't want someone on the other side to experience that.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, I want to ask you a question real quick. As a coach, what have you seen with businesses, or maybe even your own business, when we lack some of that integrity or character, that wholeness or authenticity, when there's holes in our, you know, when there's holes in the business, some obvious flaws? What have you seen? How does that affect your business?
Yeah, you know, I think about it in a lot of ways. You know, it's like you hire people around you to really give you good advice and really support you in the business. And, you know, one of the things that I think about too, when I think about this conversation, is one hire I made was a guy that never, spent the whole time he was working for me just praising me. You know, he was like in command of my organization, and I just thought he was the most amazing guy because of that. But behind my back, he was tearing apart the business, you know. And, you know, when it comes to character and wholeness and all that, it was like, I don't need somebody to praise me all the time. I need someone to really be critical to me and then praise me behind my back. You know,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy that I need. I don't need someone. But I liked it so much that he praised me to my face that I couldn't really even see what was happening. And I want you to be critical to me in my face and praise me behind my back. You know, I want to talk great things about me when I'm not around, but to my face, I want you to really challenge me and make me a great, you know, leader, and tell me that I'm doing tell me that I'm doing things wrong. I mean, that's those are the kind of people I really need.
Yeah. Isn't there a proverb, something like that, like beware of flattery.
I think
Oh, yeah.
there is a couple of them.
Oh yeah, no doubt. People, those are typically people pleasers, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
But they are so deadly to your company and your organization and to you,
Yeah.
because you don't see it coming.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Hey, so I want to bring up one more quote from Greg Gilbaugh from his book, Letting Good Things Run Wild. He also says, in order to describe and evaluate character and integrity, there must exist a standard for us to make a proper evaluation. So there must be a standard. And he also goes on a little bit later to say that, so often we, people will use themselves as their own standard. They'll compare themselves with themselves. And I know the three of us, as being believers in Christ, we believe that there's a biblical standard. There's a biblical standard that is above us. And if we use ourselves as an example, of course, we're gonna always measure up, right? Because we'll always have some excuse of why we measure up to our own standards. But Ryan, can you talk about that maybe? Just how the biblical standards that God has for us individually and for a business, how's that affected your business, and how is that a filter for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, it is important that we have that biblical standard, because if we were using ourselves, if I was using myself as a standard, it would waffle from time to time. I think it wouldn't be, you think of a standard as being a constant. If I was just relying on myself for the standard, I think it wouldn't be a constant. And so I think that standard really helps guide business decisions. And obviously I don't, and as an organization, we don't always hit that standard. There's things that happen or whatever, but that's the goal, that we're going for. And something I try to keep in mind every day, but it doesn't always happen every day. But, once you get mired in the details of the day, but something, I learned probably a decade ago already, thinking of, if God's entrusted this role to me in this business, what are the ways that I am stewarding it, and not so much just thinking about, what's, how's this little thing going, or how's this going, or what I want to do with it, like what's my responsibility in that, to him, in this responsibility, like for the people here, for the farmers, for our customers, like, and that's really helped me. I think when some big decisions come along, like try to crystallize those things, when you have a couple of options you got to choose from, making decisions, as in these positions, like feels like that's what you do all day, is make decisions.
Yeah, no doubt. And oftentimes you have a choice between, immediate gratification or long-term success. And
Yes.
Sometimes you have to compromise the standard in order to have, immediate gratification. And sometimes you just got to say no. It's like, no, we're not going to take the easy way out. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to have some integrity. We're going to stick to our guns, and we're going to work through it. And of course,
because often that can cost you money.
Yeah. It might save you 10 grand right now.
Yeah.
It could cost you 100 grand down the road.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. So for sure. So Joe, I got a question for you. How can we communicate to the people that we work with? How can we communicate in a professional way that they can understand a standard that's higher than themselves? How can we do that, like from a leadership perspective? Any thoughts?
Like, so let's ask the question again. So how can we
maybe create a vision for people, create a vision of what excellence looks like to our people, so that they kind of have a template to follow. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's like it's constant correction. I'd say it's like just like an airplane, like you don't just set it and forget it. You like constantly keep correcting it. I think that's like I think if you want someone to be a great leader, you've got to give them the time and like constantly keep correcting them and keep guiding them and getting a good feedback loop, and keep lengthening the rope that you've given them, of freedom, like just until they have control over their, everything, a domain. But I don't know, is there something specific you're looking for?
No, not really. I think that's good though. You're right. And in order, and it's true. It's true. In order to help people grow and get better, there has to be correction. Although a lot of people are afraid of that word because they don't, because they're not thinking of it in the terms of a relationship. But if you have a good relationship with the people you work with, you have that freedom and that trust to be able to make tweaks and change things and guide people. And so a lot of times leadership doesn't, growth doesn't happen simply because we don't have that relationship and we don't have the ability to make those corrections because people don't respond well when there's no relationship. So that's a tough part of being a leader too, I would say.
Yeah.
I think so. And I like that illustration of small corrections along the way. I think because a couple different circumstances of just busyness at the end of the year and a few different things over the last few years, I've sort of, I still do with my key people, I still do like a sort of an annual review, but it's a lot shorter and I don't really go into a ton of detail on it as much as I used to, because what I've found is it's like, okay, if we're sitting down and talking through some of these things once a year, that's probably too far between, talking about things. Like I found that it's worked better for me to sort of just be on the lookout for little tweaks along the way all around the calendar, and not having sort of this big annual and here's, the goals are good, but like here's the big things I saw last year, here's what we're going to do this year. Like just being ready and try I haven't always been nearly as successful at this as I would like, but trying to be ready to just do those small corrections in the moment when they happen. I think if I could do that really well, I think it would be more effective.
Yeah. We've always taught in our leadership academy that when you do your evaluations or your appraisals, whether it's 6 months or a year, if you say anything during those that surprises the person that you're speaking with, then you've already failed, because they should not be surprised at anything. That you should, coaching and teaching should be done all the time. It should be done consistently so that it should never be surprised. So yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's see. Where do we want to go from here? I guess one thing I could say too is that it's important that we don't set the standards with our people to be perfect, perfection. That there's an element of grace that's in there. And so I guess one thing I would say too with integrity and character is that authenticity is far more important than just obedience, authenticity or demanding obedience. And so rather than just trying to be this person without flaws, I think it's really important for us to be authentic. And that means from us, the leaders of the organization, we have to be authentic, meaning we have to put our failures, on display for people. We have to put the things that are, that aren't perfect on display and be vulnerable. And that really opens up relationships with people around you. So what do you guys think about that as far as authenticity? How does that affect the culture of the organization and your relationships?
I think it's for you, Ryan.
Yeah. I think that in those situations, it has helped, for people to see like, okay, we're trying to get to this, but it doesn't always hit there. That's probably an area I could grow in some, I'm for sure. Being a little more open about some of that. But yes, in the last several years, I've tried to, that has improved, like where we go over some specific things as they happen. But yes, when that happens, that's true, Joel, that our relationships are deepened and our, the quality of that goes up.
Yeah. So the quality of our relationships aren't just about finding the right people around us, but it's also us being the right people for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. So All right. Well, hey, Ryan, we really appreciate you being on the podcast. And if anybody wants to learn more about your business, where would they go?
farmershenhouse.com.
Yeah. And if anybody's looking for employment as well and want to come work with eggs and work for a great leader in Ryan, then they can certainly get a hold of Ryan as well. So anyway, Joe, any last minute thoughts with you?
Well, I sure like the free range eggs. My wife's getting the expensive ones now, and so.
Oh, that's good. That's
I like
good.
the business model.
Yeah, you probably bought some of Ryan's eggs.
And I was like, wow, they come in all these colors now. It's so cool.
No, those are Easter eggs, Joe.
Turns out that's the way eggs are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. So, all right. Hey, everybody, please join us on the next episode and give us some comments, and we'll see you next time.